Good morning, everyone. Dr. Randy Evan, our president, Dr. Yogi Goswami, the keynote speaker today, Ms. Lauren Mahdi, the program coordinator, NAI, which is National Academy of Inventors, faculty, staff, and students of Florida Poly, and my dear friends. It's my privilege to welcome you all to the inaugural event of the Florida Polytechnic chapter of National Academy of Inventors, an event for the induction of founding chapter members. It is an honor to induct the founding members of the chapter today. I take this opportunity to congratulate you all, including me, for achieving the pinnacle of success for any researcher by developing and commercializing innovative technologies. We are today starting with 8 members with about more than 25 patents. And I know we are going to grow, and we are going to grow fast before the world realizes we are here. We all joined Florida Poly because we wanted to be the first to design the course for the innovative problem solvers, for the high-tech professionals of the 21st century at the Florida Polytechnic University. The first to teach the inaugural class, the first to establish an environment of problem-based research, the first to encourage our fellow colleagues, students, to develop new technologies. The NAI chapter today is one of the many steps we have taken to realize our dream of starting the Florida Polytechnic University here. The dream to make the Florida Polytechnic the University of Innovation. Goals we all know are long-term. To make sure we achieve those goals, the path leading to those goals needs to be marked with milestones. The milestones tell us that we are on the right path. The milestones, once met, encourage us, to motivate us, since after crossing hurdles and putting hard labor, it indicates that our objectives are being met. The Florida Polytechnic chapter of NAI is one of those many milestones which we have set and met towards achieving our goal. So, without saying not much further, I'd like to invite our president, Dr. Randy Evan, to say a few words of encouragement to all of us. Dr. Randy Evan.
Thanks, everyone, and I appreciate you all coming today, especially for our guest. There were a lot of antibodies against this university. There were a lot of people that said, let's take the money and put it in the existing universities. We don't need another new university. But I can tell you that anyone who studies organizational cultures will tell you that organizations are all about resources, processes, and values. And if you take new resources and put it with old processes and old values, you don't get anything different at all. What's so incredible about this opportunity at this university is to change the processes, to change the values. And that's one of the things that we're doing here at Florida Poly. We're wired differently. Most universities focus exclusively on incentivizing faculty to do publications. Federal funding research leading to publications resulted in what's known as an H-index score, which is the combination of how many publications you have and how many people are referencing your publications. We allow our faculty to do that, encourage our faculty to do that. But even more so, we're encouraging our faculty to do what DARPA calls bridge the valley of death. The valley of death being the chasm between very basic research, which is a quest for fundamental understanding, and actually creating new technology and commercializing. So we're encouraging our faculty to get involved in translational research, much more applied, problem-driven, to go off, develop new technologies, translate it out into the marketplace, either through licensing or by creating new technology ventures and rewarding them for doing that. And I think it's just a wonderful thing that just in about halfway through our second year of opening, we already have faculty that have almost 30 patents, I believe, between the 8 faculty that we have here. So we look forward to getting more faculty involved in AI, and we're really excited to have you here on campus today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Andy Evan. So, taking the program forward, I'm extremely honored to welcome Dr. Yogi Goswami to deliver a keynote address for this event. And from the day one, when I came into academics, keynote address has been really, really important as far as starting any kind of important event is concerned. A keynote address is as someone who lays the path or shows your path towards the future. And when I had that thinking in my mind, I was thinking of the person, the right person, to be our keynote address. There was only one name which came to my mind, and it was Dr. Yogi Goswami. No else. Because I have the privilege of working with him. I learned a lot of things, and some of the things which I do in here comes from his thinking, comes from his mentoring, so I'm proud to say that he is my mentor. Dr. Yogi Goswami is a distinguished university professor and the director of the Clean Energy Research Center at the University of South Florida. He conducts fundamental and applied research on solar power and cooling indoor air quality, photocatalytic detoxification and disinfection thermodynamics, the third generation photovoltaics, and hydrogen production and storage. So as you can see, a lot into the renewable energy resources harnessing. Professor Goswami is also the editor-in-chief of Solar Energy Journal and Progress in Solar Energy. He has published as an author or editor 19 books and more than 400 referred technical papers. He also holds 16 patents, some of which have been successfully commercialized. He is a recipient of the Farrington Daniel Award from ISES and medal from ASME, John Yellowt Award for Solar Energy from ASME, and Charles Greeley Abbott Award and Holly Clark Hotel Award of the ASES, and more than 50 awards and certificates from major engineering and scientific societies for his work in the renewable energy. Dr. Yogi Goswami is a life fellow of ASHRAE, ASME, ASES, and ISES, and a fellow of American Association for Advancement of Science. He's also a fellow of the National Academy of Inventors and a member of the Pan American Academy of Engineers. I still remember the first day when I met him in India, and we had a talk about a technology which he was developing at that time, and it was on solar thermal storage. The idea which he was explaining to me went in this way, that you use solar energy during daytime to heat a material and use that heat during nighttime or when the sun is not available to generate electricity at that time. And I know while talking to him that this idea is ahead of its time. And then he also told me a story that it was in 1990 or something when he for the first time said that energy generation from the renewable resources won't make much of progress until unless you start investing in energy storage. And this was in 1990s or so. And at that time, talking about storage, man, it's something reflects the man who has vision, who has idea to make this world an energy efficient or energy surplus. So without taking any time, I'd like to welcome again Dr. Yogi Goswami and present to you Dr. Yogi Goswami for the keynote address. Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Jaspreet, for that kind introduction. Did not have to be that long, but I do appreciate it. Okay. Well, first of all, President Avan, friends, it's indeed a pleasure for me to come inside this building that I have admired from outside for so long while driving on I-4. And I'm so happy that Jaspreet and others invited me to be here. It's indeed a pleasure for me. And right in the beginning, let me congratulate Florida Polytechnic and the ones who are going to be inducted today for setting up this chapter of National Academy of Inventors. I bring greetings from Dr. Paul Sandberg, the president of the president of the National Academy of Inventors. In fact, you see him in this picture, in this slide. On the right-hand side is Paul Sandberg. I call him a visionary because in the academics, many people have talked about privately and see how do we value what work faculty members and staff members do. And there's something wrong in the way we do it when we don't value the inventions and innovations that they bring. But he was the one who was able to bring it forward and said that we need to change the way we do those things. And that's how this National Academy of Inventors was set up. As you can see, it started with recognizing inventions and innovations in universities, but quickly the U.S. Patent Office, they recognize it, and they are the major sponsors of the National Academy of Inventors. Initially, as it happens in many cases, this thing started from USF, and the major universities thought, well, you know, this is not something for them. But they quickly realized, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about it later on in my talk. And as you can see the growth, now all of the major universities in USA are members of the National Academy of Inventors, and some very prominent universities from outside the country also are members of the National Academy. And it is recognized not just by the U.S. Patent Office, but by others also as a major academy, I would say in the same level as the National Academy of Sciences and National Academy of Engineering. So very important part. As you see this, the Commissioner of Patents holding up the plaque for the National Academy Charter Fellows. All of the people who are elected as fellows of the National Academy of Inventors, their names are put up in the U.S. Patent Office. So with that, it's indeed a pleasure to congratulate you for setting up this chapter of the National Academy of Inventors, and also to congratulate, I know Jaspreet congratulated all of the others, but I will add his name also, because I consider him as a visionary also. Even though he's a junior faculty member here, but I have seen him work very closely, and I know that he's been a leading force in setting up this chapter over here, and has already commercialized technologies in the past. So with that, let me give a little bit of background, because we are in an academic institution. But I do want to say, I agree wholeheartedly with President Avant when you said that if you put new resources in old processes, you will just get the old processes. But when you put it into something totally new, you get Florida Polytechnic, which has a chance to be very disruptive in how things are done, and that's where innovation comes. When you are disruptive, that's where the innovation comes. So, just as a background, in academic institutions, and I've worked at very large institutions and very small institutions, but all of them just follow the process that has been followed for a long time, which doesn't make it right. Education and learning is the main reason we are at a university. That has to be the core. Although in some universities, people forget that. Research is another area that we value, and service, public service. So these are the three areas that we value in academic institutions. But it's a question of how we value that we have to really think about. So education and learning, you have to understand the purpose of it. That prepares us, or our students, for a life of fulfillment and happiness. Okay. That means they are prepared for life from here on. And research, that leads to improvement in our quality of life. So whatever we do in research has to lead to that. And service that gives back to the society that has benefited us. Okay. So if we keep these things in mind as the goals of education, research, and service, then a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship allows us to excel in these areas. So I'll give you some examples in these. Some come from my own 40 years of academic experience, and some come from others. Practical thinking motivates students like nothing else to achieve their highest potential. And that is one thing that I know that this institution has an opportunity to do it in a different way than all of the other universities are doing. Because I've been educated in those universities and I've taught in those universities where we take a textbook and we just teach what is in the textbooks, give examples that are in the textbooks, and the students sit there, they say, it has nothing to do with my life. And that is what is the reason that they are not motivated. In my experience of teaching, I know one thing, that once I get a student motivated, I don't need to do any teaching after that. That student will teach himself or herself after that. A few years back, when I was teaching at the University of Florida, my department had asked me to teach a course. He said, you designed this course, but you haven't taught it yet. There are other professors who've been teaching, so would you teach it at least once? So I said, yes, I'll do that. That was a course that I knew from the beginning that the students who were taking the course hated it. It was a course on thermodynamics for students in electrical engineering, in industrial engineering, in civil engineering, and those students felt they shouldn't be required to take that course. There were 120 students in that class. And you imagine, as a professor, some of you are, and that you are teaching a course to 120 students, and all of them hate it. So in the first class, I asked them to write down on a piece of paper what is their expectation of this course and what grade they expect in this course. And you may not believe that a vast majority said, I just want to get a C and get out of it. I hate the course. I don't know why I'm required to take this course. This has no value for me in life. So I knew that I had a big challenge on my hand. So when it came to textbook, I just threw it to the side. I said, this is of no use. From that time onwards, I only talked about what they encounter in everyday life. And each time they started to think about, I related that to thermodynamics. And so I basically taught that course out of their everyday life problems that not only they, everybody around them also expects that as engineers, they would have to solve those problems. When we got to the second half of the course, the students were coming to me and said, I'm at a B. Can I do some extra work to go to B+? And with a class of 120 students, I wouldn't start teaching unless there was pin drop silence. And I would see, standing myself over there, that students are telling others to just be quiet because they want me to start. And so when you get the students into things that they can relate with, they can relate to, all of a sudden, that learning becomes very important for them. And once they get motivated, you don't have to do any teaching. They will teach themselves after that. Now, encouraging innovation and entrepreneurship motivates not just students, but also the faculty. It's not just the students who are bored in classes. It's the faculty also that get bored based on how they are evaluated and what they have to do. So, and another part is students educated in a culture of innovation, entrepreneurship, they don't look for jobs. They create jobs for other people. And I can tell you so many examples. I've given some names on the next slide, and I'm going to go through it. But I will be doing injustice to hundreds and thousands of others whose names I have not put in that slide. Okay, so keep that in mind. But these are the names that we are all familiar with. Bill Gates, Paul Allen, started Microsoft. Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, Apple. Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook. Larry Ellison, Oracle. Michael Dell, Elizabeth Holmes, Arash Ferdowsi, Oprah Winfrey. I can just continue and show that these people did not look for jobs. They've created jobs for hundreds of thousands of people and created wealth. However, these are not the success stories. These are the failures of academics. Because in this case, the academics were failing them, but these were the kinds of people who could not be stopped by that system of academics that they were in. So they dropped out. In one case, after the first semester, because the education we were giving them was not the education that encouraged innovation and entrepreneurship. Another example, which is very interesting, and I'm not even sure that you have heard the name, Mark Andreessen. If you go to Silicon Valley, Andreessen and Horowitz is a venture capital group that if somebody gets investment from them, you say that they have reached that level that everybody's trying to reach. This is such a prestigious firm. Mark Andreessen, as an undergraduate at University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, developed Mosaic, and then left the university. He was contacted by a very famous computer developer and went back to the university asking them if he could use Mosaic to set up a company. The university said no. He tried every which way, they would not budge. Because this was bureaucracy that would not encourage innovation. Now, eventually, he redeveloped it from scratch, which became his own property and not the property of the university. So, where the university could have made billions of dollars from what he was going to set up, they got nothing, zero. This is in his own words. He said, I gave $40 million to Stanford University. And you know how much I gave to University of Illinois? Zero. Now, some universities, and Stanford is a big example, that they learned from their mistakes, and there they encourage innovation and entrepreneurship. In fact, they're very happy when the professors also form companies with their own students. Because that's where professors and students become partners. And this education and learning experience, in my view, is that partnership between the faculty and the students, where you really don't know the difference between who's teaching and who's learning. Because students are learning from professors, but professors are learning from students. So, coming to research, and by the way, in my own education, as I went through it, I did research, and I did my dissertation, published papers out of it, and I kept thinking, what did I do? Because I could not feel the practical utility of what I did. In my graduate education, I did not do anything about solar energy. But after that, I said, that's what I'm going to work on. Because I think I can touch and feel it. I can create stuff with it. So that's when, in 1976, I started working on solar energy. And with the help of a couple of other professors, And this young man, I know him from when he was a child, so his father, Professor Stephanakos, and another professor, we formed a company on solar energy. And that's where we learned the most, which resulted in my textbook on solar energy that I'm glad to know that is being used, I think, in every part of the world. So the question is, how do we value and measure research in academics? Is number of published papers a good measure of research productivity? And the question is, isn't one invention that is improving the lives of people better than tens of papers that no one may read other than the authors themselves? Now, I'm not putting down the value of papers. Okay, they're important too. But what I'm saying here is that when we value and measure research, we need to also see what are the other ways. And that's where, because I've been in academics for 40 years, I've been on many tenure and promotion committees where I've heard people say, oh, patents, just leave them out. What is the number of papers that this person has published? So fortunately now, what Paul Sandberg started, and at least at USF now, we in tenure and promotion value this creativity part. That is also research, but in some ways even more valuable. So, as I said before, in a culture of innovation, students, faculty, they become partners in solving problems, developing practical solutions that improve the quality of life for people around them. Okay. And that, I think, is the most important aspect of research. So, coming on to this focus on practical education, innovation, entrepreneurship, I thought that I should give a personal story. Because I got bored when I was a student. I got bored initially when I was a faculty, started working on things that were practical, even though I knew that in tenure and promotion that they won't be considered as much as the papers I published. So I published a lot of papers also for that reason. So the personal story really gives some example of why people invent, how people invent, and what starts the process of innovation. Okay. So in my case, it started with a personal need. In fact, all of the inventions either start with something you need, and you look around and you don't find it. Then you start to think, okay, maybe I can develop that, maybe I can make that. Or with curiosity, that you're curious about something, and you say, well, others are not doing this, maybe I can do it better. How Mark Andreessen did as an undergraduate student, he just had some interest in computer programming. He had learned basic programming at that time. And so at that time came the World Wide Web. He was fascinated by it, but he said, we can do the same thing with some pictures. So he could create some pictures and people could click on pictures and get that information. So that was the beginning of Mosaic, okay, from which later on Netscape came and other things. Okay. Or in some cases, you're so upset about something else that you say, I'm going to create something as better than that. Okay, so there are a number of ways this innovation comes. In my case, started with a personal need, and this is just a story of one product or one innovation. That need, my son was asthmatic and allergic to contaminants in air, right from the beginning. And I remember having to go to emergency at least once a month for him. Somehow I did not have any allergies. I grew up in India, where I think in the beginning, when I was a small child, I was exposed to everything one could be exposed to. So I developed that immunity, but he did not. And so we bought air cleaners. None of them worked for him. And in 1993, ASHRAE heavily advertised a session on indoor air quality. So I especially went to that conference to learn about the new developments that I could use for my son, but did not find anything. All they were talking about was old stuff, and that was filtration of air. Okay. So, disappointed, on my way back, I started to think about a solar technology that I had just developed. In fact, I had introduced that at Tyndall Air Force Base, which is in Florida, near Panama City, to clean up their contaminated groundwater. And a new technology was born. So really, as I came back to the office, I think a week later, a student walked into my office and said, "I've heard about you, and I want to do my research with you. That's the only reason I've come to the University of Florida, because you're working here, you work in solar energy." So I told her, "Look, right now, I'm focused on this innovation. Not only that, I'm focused on microbiology." And she was a mechanical engineer, as am I. I said, "If you want to work in this, you're welcome to work with me." Okay. So as a background, let me show you what this solar technology is.
It's a matter of chemistry that's well known to anyone who does laundry.
If you leave colored fabrics out in the sun for too long, their color fades. That's because the ultraviolet part of the sunlight has acted on that color molecule and breaks it up.
Engineers at the University of Florida have been applying this principle to the process of cleaning up groundwater that has been contaminated with organic chemicals like dioxin or PCBs.
You put a catalyst in water and expose it to the sunlight, that is the ultraviolet part of the sunlight. As the ultraviolet photons are absorbed, they cause a chemical reaction which breaks up chemical bonds.
The catalyst is titanium oxide, an ingredient in white toothpaste and other products.
It's used as a pigment in paints. It's used as food additive in a number of things that we eat. And it's available abundantly. It's probably the second most abundant material available in the world after soil.
And it successfully cleaned up water in the lab.
The darkest color is the water that we put in the reactor. Then we got the next color as it went through, and finally this colorless water.
Over at Tyndall Air Force Base in western Florida, Professor Goswami's graduate students have taken the process from the lab to test it at an actual cleanup site.
The site was previously used for a what they call POL, petroleum oils and lubricants storage area.
Over the years, leaks from tanks and spills during fuel transfers have resulted in contamination of the groundwater. It's an ideal area to put the process to the test. Groundwater mixed with titanium oxide is pumped through narrow tubes in the solar reactor.
The goal is complete destruction, taking the hydrocarbons down to carbon dioxide and water. We do not want to create anything that's more hazardous than what we started with in the first place, which is possible when you start trying to oxidize the compounds. We're taking great care to prevent that here.
Professor Goswami has great confidence in his process.
In fact, we have not seen any organic chemicals, or we have not tested any on which this process would not work.
If he's right, this may be the beginning of a cheap and easy way to clean groundwater in some parts of the world.
Obviously, the solar aspect is not going to be applicable to everywhere. If you go up into Maine, it's going to be hard to run a solar-powered unit year-round.
For now, testing continues in the Sunshine State. Sean Caleb, CNN, Future Watch.
So one other characteristic of innovators and inventors is that they're not afraid to fail. As I got into this thing, this was an area where I had not worked before. Chemists had been working on it for decades. In fact, I even went from chemistry to biochemistry and microbiology because I started working on disinfection using this process. And I knew that if I go to a meeting of the chemists or microbiologists and I start talking about this, they're going to laugh at me. But an innovator is not afraid to be laughed at. And that's how innovations come, when you're not afraid to fail. Okay. So in this case, though, the process was based on photons of light that are absorbed on a semiconductor catalyst in the presence of water molecules. They create hydroxyl free radicals, and free radicals break up chemical bonds and oxidize organic chemicals. And that's how I went into disinfection, because all of the microorganisms, whether bacteria, viruses, spores, they're organic chemicals. So as far as this process is concerned, they're just chemicals, organic chemicals. So I said, okay, now for my son, I need to apply it to air. So I can have the catalyst, instead of sunlight, I can have lamps that have the same wavelength. And water molecules in the air, they are in there, we can't even get rid of them. You know, that's humidity, especially in Florida. And so we got all the ingredients in there. Let's see if it will work.
600 people used to work in this Central Florida courthouse, but now the doors are closed, the hall's empty, and these are the only workers allowed inside. The Polk County Courthouse is a sick building.
There were also problems with the air conditioning, that it wouldn't properly dehumidify the air, and the humidities in the building were too high, and that caused mold and mildew to grow on the walls, literally.
Bacteria buildup and poor ventilation are typical in sick buildings. Hundreds of workers here developed health problems ranging from runny noses to permanent crippling lung conditions. The entire building was shut down. Everything inside is being replaced. The cost to taxpayers, $37 million.
The hard part for the citizens of Polk County, however, is they are paying for it twice in a way, and that's very unfortunate.
The money to fix this building is already spent.
100 feet per minute velocity.
But a University of Florida professor has a new solution that could save millions in the future. An air filter coated with a common chemical is used with ultraviolet lights and installed in an air duct. The system kills most bacteria as the air filters through the trap. Researchers say it would cost a fraction of what it would now take to fix the thousands of sick buildings across the country.
Instead of replacing the whole duct system, you simply replace the filter system, which would be much cheaper than replacing the whole system.
But the new process comes too late for this courthouse. Now these are the judges who will rule on when workers can return. In Polk County, I'm Carrie Brunell reporting.
Okay, so that developed this photocatalytic air disinfection technology, which worked beautifully for my son. And the way I knew it, that one time he was talking with my wife and he said, well, I haven't taken my inhaler in a while now. So I knew that what we had created for him was working. Okay? And the technology was shown to be very effective. And a startup was formed. And here's again where the academic fails you. I disclosed that invention to the University of Florida, and they said, oh, what is this? You're just doing, so we're not interested. And so they gave it back to me. Somebody approached me, so I assigned the patents to that person, they formed a company, I became a partner in that company. Then that company sold all of its assets to a very large company, which is called Lennox Corporation, that sells air conditioning systems all over the world. Okay? And they're still selling this product. However, and this is another motivation sometimes, that Lennox Corporation structured that deal in a way that they wouldn't have to pay me royalty. And so I said, okay, you don't want to pay me royalty, but I'm the inventor of this, and I already have in my mind what is the next version of this technology. And that came from another solar technology that I had, which is photovoltaics. And so I applied an aspect of it and created, which is an orders of magnitude faster than that one, to the point that you see in this, that in that device, which is an air cleaning device based on my invention, we spray millions of bacteria on the inlet side of the air, and not a single one comes out. And they don't stay on the filter also because they're oxidized to carbon dioxide and water. Okay. So this company, Transform Air, then built some prototypes. They gave them to beta users. These are the people who have problems like allergies, runny noses, stuffy noses, sneezing, and these are the kinds of comments we are getting back from them. Not only that, the study was designed by doctors, which calculated the total weekly symptom score, that is the nasal symptom as well as eye symptom. And for these people in 4 weeks, that symptom score went down from more than 20 to less than 5. And that, the doctors tell us, is phenomenal. Okay. So this is the first technology that's coming on the market for air cleaning, which is based on science. Everything else, in fact, the state of the art on the market right now is HEPA filter. And HEPA filter is a 70 years old technology, which we developed because we were afraid of nuclear fallout if we were bombed with nuclear bombs. And so this technology takes care of all of those things. They have now developed a complete solution that includes something that goes into your central air conditioning systems. It's a simple system. It has some lights, a pre-filter, and a catalytic filter. In fact, this shows this system being used at the University of Florida Interdisciplinary Research Building, where it's cleaning up the air. This is the portable standalone unit that they are introducing and launching in the market, in fact, in the first week of May, and it's being launched as Molecule. Okay, now there are, branding companies involved, and there are PR companies involved, and so the product will be called Molecule because it is the first product that cleans air at the molecular level, does not just filter it. Okay. This product, number one, not only looks good the way it's designed, it's being manufactured by the same company that manufactures all of Apple products. So that's why the look of that was very similar to what the Apple products are. But it's connected everywhere with Wi-Fi. You can control it from your iPhone. Not only that, eventually your information in there will be transferred directly to your doctor, so that if you go to your allergy doctor later on, that doctor doesn't have to ask you. All of the information from the time you last saw the doctor will be with the doctor at that time.
Molecule has a nationwide product launch on May 2nd.
So this is a commercial. Sign up at molecule.com and you will get all the information about it. So finally, coming to why we are here. I believe, President Avant, that I really agree with you. This is something that I have thought about it for a long time, that to start something disruptive, you need to start it that way. Okay. And this is how Florida Polytechnic got started. And you have a great opportunity here to do it right from the start and set an example for others. Other universities took a long time, learned from their mistakes. I don't know whether the University of Illinois has still learned from its mistakes, but I know Stanford has. That's where, for example, my daughter went to Stanford, and there was a very good job here in this area, and I said, aren't you going to apply for that? Because they really want you. And she said, well, I didn't go to Stanford to work for other people. So that's the attitude you need to bring into the students over here, that they can create. And they will create jobs for other people rather than looking for jobs for themselves. Okay. So finally, this Friday, from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m., I will be on reddit.com. Some of you may be familiar with it. It was new to me when I was approached. And on that, the program is called Ask Me Anything. And so it's AMA, and it gives a website address here. So on that day, if you go to that website, you can then go to where my program will be. And in that, you can ask any questions, and I will try to answer those questions. So with that, I thank you.
Open for questions.
Yes, just for the others who have not heard, it's really a comment that this product has a huge market, and we understand that. In fact, we cannot introduce it fast enough. I have been to China to give lectures over there on air quality, and they want the product now. Okay. However, the company doesn't want to grow too fast because that can be cause for failure. So the company is going to introduce the product in USA, and I think in about 2 to 3 years, it'll be introduced in China and India and other places where air quality is really a big problem. Okay. So you're right, that the market is huge. It's just that so far, all people thought about was filtering the air, and they kept making filters tighter and tighter. Okay. But there are certain things filters can't filter. Like volatile organic chemicals in the air, filters cannot filter. They just pass through. And those are the ones that we have in small quantities in the air that over long periods of time causes cancer and other problems. And any microorganisms that are filtered, they actually multiply on the filter. Yeah. So none of the existing technologies can take care of the problems, but this one, based on science, will take care of those problems.
Just to give you another story, recent at North Carolina State in the 70s, there was an assistant professor by the name of Jim Goodnight.
Okay.
And when he had his review with the department head said, Jim, you have to decide whether you want to be a professor or a businessman, because he would work with statistical factors. He made the right choice and created SAS. SAS is, I think, Jim alone is
I see. Okay. Well, so for those of you who have not heard, President Avant gave an example from NC State of Jim Goodnight. And so when he went up for evaluation, the department had questioned his priorities. And then he decided to have the right priorities, go and make that statistical package SAS, and that has made him a billionaire. Okay. And there's so many stories like that, but you see, those are the stories from the point of view of the inventor, their successes, despite the fact that the academics tried to stop them. But from the academic point of view, they're not success stories because that's where the academics went wrong. And hopefully, with example of what you are doing at Florida Polytechnic, you can do things right. Some universities, like Stanford, have already learned it. And I've gone over there and I've seen the culture. Now I see, for example, even graduate engineering students are asked to go to their workshop and do things by hand, which from all of the other engineering colleges, we have removed those things. And so I'm very happy to be here because I think, and I've appreciated as I've read about what this university is about and what its philosophy is, I think you're on the right track.
Thank you, Dr. Goswami. And for students who wants to interact with him, he's available after this program is over, so you can interact with him, and he can share with you more stories and more experience. Just to, in fact, I'm happy to announce that too, that recently Dr. Goswami has been inducted into the Florida Inventors Hall of Fame. So congratulations, Dr. Goswami. So moving forward to today's program, so today's another presentation which I have, and it truly reflects what we are doing at Florida Polytechnic, something which I say is unique. So we are preparing students not only to be a problem solver, but at the same time protecting their intellectual property and managing their intellectual property so that they can be a successful entrepreneur. Because we have seen, in fact, that if you haven't been so diligent as far as your intellectual property right protection is concerned, you pay consequences for that. Just to give you one statistic, more than 50% of the patent cases which goes to the court of law because of infringement of some of the other issues, more than 50% get invalidated. So the reason it's not because of the attorneys. The reason it is that when we invent technology and when we go for the protection, we don't know what it is. We don't give the right ammunition to the attorneys so that they can put it in the patent application so that it could be successfully protected in the court of law. So when we were designing the courses for the engineering program, for the graduate engineering program, and we were going in the direction of the students being entrepreneur or the problem solver, we thought that they need to know about the intellectual property right. They need to know how to manage intellectual property right. They need to be very smart in the protection. So that's the reason we have a course here, which is intellectual property right management for engineers and technocrats. So today we are going to have one of our students, Mr. Mark Hamilton, presenting a talk on IP challenges in the field of nanotechnology. So we have at Florida Polytechnic a concentration in nanotechnology. So it's a new field. It's fast growing, and the IP has somewhat left behind. So the patent law has to change in order to accommodate all these technology changes. So he's going to present some of the challenges facing the nanotechnology in the field of patent law, and that will be, I think, useful for people who are working in the field of nanotechnology. So I'll present to you Mark Hamilton.
So you can close that. It's down there at the bottom.
Right. There. There you are. Okay, you'll hit that play button up there, but let me adjust this one. You're a little taller. Okay.
Good morning. Before I begin, I would like to extend my congratulations to the professors who are being inducted today in the National Academy of Inventors, especially Dr. Mady, who in his Emerging Technologies class gave me my initial foray into nanotechnology and a great overview in his class, and also for Professor Dow, who has, in the process of teaching me how to put a fence around the golden nuggets of my IPR that I plan to create after I attain my degree. So again, congratulations. I'd also be remiss if I didn't say thank you to Florida Polytechnic. Without their inaugural scholarship, I would not be here today, so I'm forever grateful for that opportunity, and I certainly appreciate that. Okay, so with that, I'm going to get started. I'm going to present the challenges associated with patenting in the field of nanotechnology. So actually, the concept of nanotechnology started in 1959 with a radical presentation at the time to the American Physical Society by Richard P. Feynman. And his speech was titled, "There's Plenty of Room at the Bottom." In his speech, he kind of lamented at the time because people were heralding the concept of miniaturization and were stating that you could actually get to a point where they could inscribe the Lord's Prayer on the head of a pen. And he said, no, you're really looking at it the wrong way. He said, technology will advance to a degree that we'll be able to put the entire 24 volumes of Encyclopedia Britannica on the end of a pen. And he actually challenged everyone at the time and said, I'm going to put out a $1,000 bounty on the first person or corporation that's able to do so. And now look where we are. Nanotechnology is the understanding and control of matters at dimensions of roughly 1 to 100 nanometers, where a unique phenomenon enables novel application. So for perspective, a sheet of newspaper is approximately 100,000 nanometers in width. The creation of the scanning tunneling microscope, STM, in 1981, along with the discovery of fullerene, C60, in 1985, led to the emergence of nanotechnology. Types of nanoparticles include quantum dots, carbon nanotubes, gold nanoparticles, nanocrystals, and liposomes. So you may ask yourself, where is nanotechnology today? Well, it's all around us. It's in products that we consume every day. And on the screen here, you'll see a Miller Lite bottle and a tennis ball. They both contain clay nanoparticles. Clay nanoparticles help the ball bounce, and Miller Lite has used clay nanoparticles to preserve the carbon dioxide and keep your beer fresh. It's also in pregnancy tests, believe it or not. Gold nanoparticles are used for the indicator to let you know if you're expecting a baby or not. Now we get to the issues that's currently affecting patenting nanotechnology. Nanotechnology is obviously fueling innovation, encouraging exponential growth, and motivating research and development institutions, corporations, and obviously colleges to work towards protecting their intellectual property rights. Several challenges and concerns have presented themselves related to the patentability of nanotechnology, to include the lack of comprehensive standards related to measurement and categorization of nanoparticles, the cross-disciplinary nature of nanotechnology and how it perplexes ill-trained patent examiners, and the novelty and obviousness associated with patents having identifiable particle size overlap in prior art. So the standardization of nanotechnology. With nanotechnology's unprecedented growth, patent offices worldwide have struggled to develop the definitions and standards required to govern this nascent industry. Without a singular, consistent set of nanotechnology definitions and guidelines, inventors run the risk of having their invention unduly invalidated, or even having overlapping or conflicting patents granted. If you're an innovator or an inventor, that's absolutely the worst thing that can happen to you. Examples include broad-reaching patent claims, language contained within patents comprised of various types of nanoparticles and nanostructures. To counter this, the International Standards Organization, ISO Technical Committee, TC 229, consisting of 34 countries, continue to develop and harmonize nanotechnology-related standardizations and measurements at a global level. Nanotechnology is cross-disciplined, and that means that nanotechnology itself spans many fields, including chemistry, biology, computer science, pharmaceuticals, material science, and diverse fields of engineering, as well as a myriad of other disciplines. It's everywhere. It's pervasive. This technology has challenged patent examiners who lack the expertise required to consistently evaluate the patentability of an invention. They're just ill-equipped and they don't have the education, quite frankly, to be able to make a determination if something is inventive or non-obvious. An inexperienced patent examiner increases the opportunity to overlook relevant prior art, which increases the risk of inaccurately assessing the novelty and non-obviousness associated with a nanotechnology patent. To address this gap, the trilateral offices of the United States Patent and Trademark Office, the Japan Patent Office, and the European Patent Office developed extended training courses for their patent examiners with an emphasis on how to perform extensive prior art searches. The goal here, obviously, is to make sure that they protect the existing intellectual property that's out there and patented, and to make sure that your innovation is novel. Does size matter? Recent nanotechnology patent cases have made exceptions for inventions that exhibit properties with smaller properties than their larger counterparts in prior art. A recent European Patent Office ruling held that assessing novelty of these selection inventions that overlap in size must be narrow relative to the larger prior art range, far removed from the larger range, and be indicative of an invention. A recent court case, Wyeth Holding Corporation versus SmithKline Beecham patent infringement case, found that SmithKline's hepatitis B vaccine measured 60 to 120 nanometers and was ultimately found to be novel and non-obvious when compared to Wyeth's original patent having a similar adjuvant of particles measuring 80 to 500 nanometers. The court further stated that SmithKline's overlap was narrow at 10% at the lower end of the prior art range and had proven to exhibit significantly improved efficacy comparative to Wyeth's vaccine. So the patent was upheld. So what's next for nanotechnology? Nanotechnology has been one of the greatest springboards to technological and industrial development within the 21st century and is considered by some to be the next industrial revolution. In order for this revolution to succeed, global standards developing organization, SDOs, must stay on par with the inevitable breakthroughs and advancements related to nanotechnology in order to protect the IPR of inventors. Nanotechnology patent practitioners should also include well-established definitions and claim terms within their specifications so to enlighten ill-prepared patent examiners in order to reduce invalidated or even possibly overlapping claims. And finally, innovators wishing to patent their IPR should do everything possible to assure nanotechnology inventions are novel and non-obvious comparative to the prior art. Finally, I'll leave you with a quote from Ralph Merkle, who said, if you look at various strategies available for dealing with a new technology, sticking your head in the sand is not the most plausible strategy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark. It was a wonderful talk. I'd just like to inform all the audience that there are some posters here, and again, that's an innovative thinking, so we have saved, I think, at least 4 posters, 4 big sheet papers, by having for the first time digital posters here. So these are the posters related to IPR, the intellectual property right, concerning various fields. Like on my right-hand side, that's patenting genes or patenting natural products and living things. So that's a poster presented by one of the students in the IPR class. On my right-hand side, there is a poster concerning the intellectual property rights in 3D printing. So that's another technology which is fast approaching. So whenever new innovations happens, the society has to change, and the laws are part of the society. So the patent law has to change, and what are those changes which are happening or needs to be happened are reflected in these patents. So once this program is over, I'll like to invite all of you to go through these patents and probably interact with some of our students here and ask questions. So now I hand over the next part of the program today to Ms. Jeannie Viviani, who has been what you call the person, the heart of this program, because if I brought the idea, all other things were done by Viviani, sending out the invitations, designing the brochures, calling people, and all those things. Everything is Jeannie Viviani. This program would not have been possible without her. I didn't have even a 1 cent of worry having Viviani alongside with me. Thank you, Viviani, and it's all yours.
Well, now I get to do the fun part. We're going to go ahead and induct our founding members into the Florida Polytechnic National Academy of Inventors. So what I would like to do is ask Dr. Goswami to come up, and he will give the certificates to the inductees. And I have pins too, so I'm juggling, so it's entertaining as well. Okay. How do I put the poly thing on the back? Aha. I did it. I did it. Did I do it? Woohoo! I think I did it, didn't I? Okay. Super. Okay. Oh. No, we don't want that. Okay. If inductees could come up to they'll come up to the stage this way. Oh, what? Never mind. Tech help here. Oh, see, that was the way it should have been. Okay. Visiting Assistant Professor of Physics, Robert Austin. Take a picture. Okay. Associate Professor in Mechanical and Industrial Engineering, Christopher Coughlin. Assistant Professor of Chemistry, Jaspreet Dow. Associate Professor of Computer Science and Information Technology, Wei Ding. Trying to be exciting.
Yeah, that's.
Thanks. Associate Professor of Physics, Nicoletta Hickman. Just jump. Associate Professor in Mechanical and Industrial Engineering, Richard Matey. Associate Professor of Chemistry, Nahid Mohajeri. And Associate Professor of Physics, Sesha Srinivasan. Srinivasan. Okay, and for closing remarks, Dr. Dow, if you'd like to come back up stage.
Thank you, Jeannie. I'd like to mention a word of thanks for all of the people who have made this program a success. I'll start with Dr. Randy Evan for giving us the opportunity to host this event at Florida Poly and his guidance. I'd like to also extend thanks to Dr. Yogi Goswami for accepting our invitation, and I know he's very busy, but he didn't make it. Means when I talked for the first time, are you willing to come here to deliver a lecture for us? It was all yes. It was not like, okay, I'll have to look into my schedule. So thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I'd like to also thank Program Manager at NAI, Ms. Lauren Madej, for being here and again working closely with Jeannie Viviani to make this program happen. And I'd like to say that we are so very grateful for having the NAI and giving us an opportunity to start a chapter here. We are really looking forward to it. I'd like to thank all of my colleagues here who have been inducted into this chapter, and I look forward to working together and make this chapter a success and a force to reckon with. Yeah, and then I'd like to thank my students in the intellectual property right management, and also I know my students from the Survey of Physical Chemistry here. They were excited to come here and for their presence. I'd like to thank the students who have presented their poster or will be presenting their poster. Their name is Langley Patton and Michelle Powell about the accelerated patent examination procedure available at USPTO. So that's another very important topic. With the change in technologies, with the technologies becoming obsolete in no time, many people don't know that you can accelerate the patent prosecution process at USPTO. You can get a patent in less than 12 months. Normally it takes 3 to 5 years. By that time, your technology is gone. Or probably someone is infringing on your intellectual property, but if you don't have a patent granted, you cannot do anything. So there is a procedure at USPTO where you can get your patent granted in less than 12 months. So their group is going to talk about that program at USPTO. So please make it a point that you go in there and learn about it, because I found it very fascinating. There is another poster which is from Christopher and John. This is on patenting computer software programs. So that's again a very hot area, and there is a lot of confusion as far as the patent law is concerned about patenting software programs, whether it's copyrightable or how to protect the softwares. The third poster is natural products and living things, issues and challenges in patenting those. And the fourth one here is challenges in patenting 3D printing technologies. So as an inventor, as an entrepreneur, we should be knowing these things so that we can be better at protecting ourselves. As I said, 50% of the patent gets rejected, get invalidated, not rejected. It means after being granted, they get invalidated. So I thank you all for coming here, for being part of this program, and I look forward to you, working with you, and as I said, make Florida Poly great. Thank you very much. Just one announcement that all the inductees, please come on the stage so that we can have a group photograph. Dr. Randy Evans and Dr. Yogi Goswami and even Lauren, please. This.